Hello dear Ronins, welcome to Ronin Hood. Today it will be a battle with the Ronin Dojo Pro number 19 against the Prague GL that you already know. They almost have the same weight, 1150 grams. So it's the maximum for me the weight of Shinken that I can use. For example, the XL from Anway is a bit too much, it's 1350 grams, is a bit too much for my skeleton and mass muscle abilities. So the only difference between that two Shinken is one is 1060 carbon steel, this one, the Dojo Pro, and the Prague GL is 1095 carbon steel. And the nagasa is a little bit different. So this nagasa is 69 centimeters for the Dojo Pro, and for the other one we have already seen that it's 72 centimeters. So we will see which one will win. It will be free omote, free Mugen Dachi omote for one, and free Mugen Dachi omote for the other. So I start that versus with the Ronin Dojo Pro, and like I said before in the review of Ronin Dojo Pro number 19, there is some kind of problems with Mugen Dachi Omote. Because Mugen Dachi Omote have so much density, and 1060 carbon steel I think is not enough for such dense materials. The second thing is, of course, just before I was practicing with the horizontal port of the Ronin Hood Tamashigiri stand, and that horizontal port give me less inertia than with the vertical regular port of the Tamashigiri stand. My cuts, my free omote cuts with the Ronin Dojo Pro were not so great. I was not really confident with that sword, and obviously it's really simple because there is not a good balance. It's not so bad as the Musashi Practical from Yarino Anzo, but there is a bad balance and materials are a little bit cheap. That's why I put the note 5 on 10. And the other thing is the weight is really important. Like I said before, maybe on comments or on reviews, I think the explanation why mass production sold from China use too much important weights is because they want to avoid the bending of the sword by beginners or backyard cutters. So that's why they put so much weight, because when you analyze a little bit the proposal size weight of nagasa, of Tozando guide size, or Seido guide size, you will see that no Shinken or Yeito is up than 1 kilos, even you are 1 meter 95 centimeters. So with that Shinken, the Ronin Dojo Pro, the cuts, the regular cuts were okay, but all the double cuts were really complicated, and I was not feeling comfortable with that weight distribution on the blade. That is not good. It's good if you just want to make simple cuts, but in my opinion, the weight distribution is not so good. And it doesn't mean that the weight distribution on the practical journey is so great, because we will see with next swords that are coming that with prices up than practical. I mean, when I say practical, I mean it's $200 to $400 or euros. So the category, the middle category, and not entry level of prices. The middle class, the middle level of swords that cost $800 are really better, and on a specific point, the weight distribution. I had many difficulties cutting with one head Batodo cuts with that Ronin Dojo Pro. Not because of age, but just because of the weight distribution. And that reminds me when I was cutting with the Musashi Practical on last winter. So I had to give more speed to the blade to have the same result than with the John Lee Practical, for example. But like I said, there is many other swords that are really better than John Lee Practical. So John Lee Practical is just an example that what you can have for between 200 euros and 300 euros practical entry level sword. So now it is the practical John Lee. I tried with different stand, a light stand and a heavy Ronin Hood Tamashigiri stand. And on the first moment with the sword in my hand, I was taking off the oil. I was feeling confident again. Even it's not my size, I felt, while I like to feel when I'm cutting, is I feel confident. Yes, first double cut and it's a success. Even there were not twine anymore on the omote, it was cut well in the middle, flipping in the air. So I was feeling again that quite confident feeling, and without this feeling, with appropriate balance nagasa, appropriate weight distribution on the blade, practice is for me not having so much sense. I have many other swords with better balance and appropriate size than the John Lee Practical. But for a first price, I really have a good feeling with it. That's why I propose that versus, to understand what you can have that can be good for an entry price Shinken. And this is the first reason why I made Ronin Hood. It was to avoid beginners like me to buy some bad products that are not good for your elbows safety. So weight distribution and appropriate size are really important. Next is to find something that is not too heavy, because a too heavy sword is not good for the back, for your back, your skeleton, and injury won't help to improve our skills. So of course, every cut we're working with that John Lee Practical, I was feeling the cycle again. Fluid. Even better than last time. Because every sword changed my perception. I start to have good feelings with John Lee Practical for my study of practical entry level prices. But because I practiced before that day with the Ronin Dojo Pro, that was changing my perception. So when I get back to John Lee Practical, because I had to make big effort to have correct angles with Ronin Dojo Pro, getting back to John Lee Practical, I was feeling better. It's the same when you box and you practice karate. If you practice with someone who has a more important weight than you, like you practice sparring with someone who is 20 kilos, more you get the habit of it. When you will get back to someone who is the same weight category than you, it will be easy. I really feel it's the same between that practice with the Ronin Dojo Pro that was for me really exhausting and not easy for double cuts or even batodo cuts. So when I get back to Johnny Practical, I was feeling really more confident and peaceful. There is a huge difference on three things between the two Shinken, in my opinion, in my practice, in my perception. But batodo cuts really more easy with Johnny Practical, even longer nagasa. Double cuts really more easy, even with a longer nagasa. And three, the cuts of precision with section of omote that are less than 20 centimeters were impossible for me with the Ronin Dojo Pro instead of the Johnny Practical, where I could cut even section of omote that are less than 20 centimeters. And for me, this is the point of that review, that versus. The steel is really important. Many persons tell me, yes, but the weight make the cut, and 1095 carbon steel just keep longer, the edge sharp, but not necessarily is sharper. Here I think you got a real proof of the real difference of steel between two Shinken that get the same measurements or close the same. Almost the same weight, almost the same nagasa, and almost the same tsuka measurements. So here, the only thing that changed is the steel. And this is not a question of weight, this is a question of steel. And for me, it's just my opinion, I'm sure that 1095 carbon steel really changed the cut because there is more density. The difference between a 1095 carbon steel and a 1060 carbon steel is density of the metal. You can calculate, I don't have precisely the numbers, but you can find it really easily on the web. Density can be calculated by numbers. It's a harder steel, and the density gets through the material more easily than a softer steel. It's physics. There is a really huge difference between medium steel and hard steel. Between 1060 and 1095. Not a question of weight. The only difference is 2 or 3 centimeters on the nagasa, but I don't think it changes a bit the dynamic, but it doesn't change the cut. So here, it's technically really clear. We can see how huge is the difference between two different steel, medium and hard steel. The second difference is the balance that change the comfort when you make the cut, because you transfer mass and you create power, and for your skeleton and muscles comfort and joints, having a good balanced blade is really important. And 3, the appropriate size of the nagasa, because it's more easy to manipulate, because it's not too long for your size and it won't give you back pain. So that's the limit of the Johnny Practical for me. It's not perfectly at my size. So I think the next swords will be better, of course, with a better balance also. But I'm really happy for all the tests I made with that sword. And great thank to histofield.com for sharing that sword with me and making all that review possible. So one thing what is interesting with the Ronin Dojo Pro was the tsuba, engraved tsuba. I had a little scratch on the skin. It's not a big deal, but it's just a point to note for the practicing experience. But the two swords were really enjoyable, but Prague still win. I'm sorry. Prague still win. I don't know why. Ronin Dojo Pro is a good sword. There is on the Kurigata and Kojiri and Koiguchi, I think. Yeah, Koiguchi, Kurigata and Kojiri. There is some buffalo horn, and that's a good thing to say for the Ronin Dojo Pro. But even there is a good nagasa size for my size. The 1060 carbon steel were still not so great in my perception, in my feeling when I was cutting. And the Prague gel was still awesome. I had even best double cut than the time before in the Anway versus Prague gel. And with the review of Prague gel, because I had 30 degrees uppercut, Joho Giri, with then Kesagiri, because it's Joho Giri Kesagiri on the double cut. And they were a little bit more clean, they were cleaner, I think, because they were on 30 degrees. So 30 degrees is more like this, and 45 degrees is more like this. So here is between, I think, 45 degrees and 30 degrees is here, I think. So this one, I think, is cleaner because it's cleaner cut. There is less opposition of force between the material and the edge. So that's why I think Japanese cut this way, because on Kesagiri or Shomengiri we should practice with a 30 degrees angle cut, so less opposition of material between the material and the edge. That's the first thing. And you preserve the edge, because less opposition means the edge will just go through the material without any scratch or opposition of force, so that will preserve the edge. So that was one of the cuts, I think the last omote, or one of the last omote, so the free omote of the Prague gel. I had a really great experience with the Prague gel today, even I had just 3 omotes. And to finish about angles, I think I really like the Prague gel. I think is really good, still a really good practical sword. And even the nagasa is not at my size. The steel, the balanced, proper tsuka made that with 3 omotes, I had a better experience today than with 9 omote with the Ronin Dojo Pro number 19. So that doesn't mean the Ronin Dojo Pro is not a good sword, but that just means that Prague GL is better, in my opinion. Thank you, dear Ronin, for having watched this video. I hope you liked it. You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok at the Ronin Hood. You will see there special videos of my trainings. Stay focused, mind sharp, and body healthy. And see you soon for a new episode on Ronin Hood.